Second Ward Commissioner and Chair of our Public Safety Committee, Joe Jones, to come up. And for all of you, any of you who want to join the speakers and stand in partnership, please feel free to join us up here.
City staff.
And any city staff who want to join us. Commissioners?
Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry that we're here for this occasion. I'm happy that we're here in Joe Taylor Park to take it back after the violent act earlier this week. I'm Sunita Lanier, and I have the privilege of serving as your Third Ward Commissioner, along with my colleague Nathaniel Moody, who is to my left. I just want to give a few remarks just in general about what we're seeing as an uptick in violence recently. I've had many conversations with corporations. Have another meeting yet today with another president of a corporation asking what can they do. Young people asking what can they do. Parents asking what can they do. And community members asking the same. And I think what we're seeing now is this is the result of many, what I would call, the manager will talk more about this. We'll be opening our doors to welcome those who want to participate and not necessarily sure of how they can do so. Obviously, financial resources are important. We heard that on Tuesday evening from many organizations who are providing support and programming to young people. We've heard that having a place for people to take guns back if they don't want them is another important factor to this. I think another important factor is that there are young people in the streets who are afraid. Their parents are afraid. Their friends are afraid, and they don't know what to do. And what I'm asking today is if we can find a place and open a door for them to come to tell us what's going on, tell us where the guns are, tell us why they're carrying them. They're just like anyone else who has a gun. When they're fearful, they carry it. So those of you who may have guns and you may be you have them lawfully, when you get fearful, you carry your guns. They're doing the exact same thing. They're no different than you. But now what we're experiencing is a back and forth, and we need to do something about it. So I'm hoping that we can find a way to open up the doors. I'm happy to hear the agencies are saying they will be there to, for them to come and speak to them about the issues that they're experiencing. We all hands on deck. I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I'm here because I want this to end. I have children, and I don't want them to be involved in violent acts like this in their future, and we have to make sure we put parameters in place to give them the opportunity to do otherwise. Thank you. Commissioner?
My name is Nathaniel Moody. For those of you who do not know me, I am a Third Ward City Commissioner, as Commissioner Lanier has pointed out, and I echo the things that she has said. One of the most important things that we are doing today is somewhat welcome you to the Baxter community. But most importantly, the welcome is not a good welcome because of what's taking place in our city. One of the things that we used to have in place was that it takes a village to raise the children. And in the process of taking villages to raise a child, one of the things that the village needs is economic power and capital. We have to bring back our community in a state of being where we have businesses that are flourishing to hire our children. From an African American standpoint, at one time in our lives, we all took care of one another. We had parenting skills that were beyond the ramification of some of our thinkings, but now we have lost that. We got to get back to training our parents to become parents. And that way, it would allow their children to grow to become young, strong men and women. We need to change the mindset of how we think. In order to do that, we all need to come together and figure out and put a plan together and take action. We can have all these events all day long, but what takes place afterwards is putting something in place and some steps that would change the mindset of our community. We have a wonderful city, and there's much that is needed to be done. And we're in a place right now where we need to make sure that it happens. So as we leave here today, I hope that each of us are going to our private meetings and talking with individuals and different groups that we talk about the changes that need to be made. This is not a police issue. This is a community issue. The police only get involved when we call them. But If you know that there are individuals out there that are shooting, you have a right and an obligation to point them out and turn them in. This code of silence, saying that you don't want to be a snitch, I put too many kids in the grounds from the mid-'80s to this point, and I don't want to bear anybody else's child. But the most important thing is, as a community, we got to stand together, and we got to make a transformational change, and we got to change how we think. Thank you.
Good morning. It was Coretta Scott King who said, "I must remind you that starving a child is violence. Suppressing a culture is violence. Neglecting school children is violence. Punishing a mother and her family is violence. Discrimination against a working man is violence. Ghetto housing is violence. Ignoring medical need is violence. Contempt for poverty is violence." Gandhi went on to say poverty is the worst form of violence. I think we would all agree that the violence that we're seeing on today is senseless and it's putting everyone in danger. Our citizens, our police officers, and we don't want to see harm brought to either party. Our officers are engaged in a difficult task and are being asked to do quite a bit. They're trained to bring peace to a situation, and they're working diligently to do just that. And they can't do it alone. I want to suggest that there's a lot that they cannot do as well. This is where others in community have to step up or have to lean in. As Coretta Scott King and Gandhi so eloquently stated, violence is more than just gunplay. And ultimately, the type of violence that we're seeing being played out in the streets of Grand Rapids as of late is not new to our city. We've seen this before. On January 18, 2013, the Community Involvement Initiative, Stop It, gathered more than 1,000 community members at Messiah Missionary Baptist Church in Grand Rapids to discuss responses to a recent increase in violent crime in the city. Does everyone remember that report from years ago? There were two questions that I want to bring light to that were asked of the community. What is the impact of violence in our community? Participants mentioned the emotional impact of community violence, fear, sadness, and the lack of sense of security. Many participants mentioned desensitization to violence as it is because it's more common. A few participants noted that violence exacerbates community members resorting to stereotypes and erodes positive youth identities. The other question that stood out is, what is triggering community violence? Participants cited as a major trigger the inability of families to meet basic needs. They also expressed the belief that violence is an accepted part of the culture and that is passed down from generation to generation. Participants pointed to discrimination, a sense of hopelessness, and the availability to weapons as aspects of this culture of acceptance that lead to more violence. We need a culture shift right now. A culture that embraces the idea that if you want what's best for your children and families, you will commit to letting the right people know who's involved with some of the unfortunate incidents that have taken place throughout our city. Notice I said throughout. To my colleagues in the media, I beg you to please be clear in defining that, unfortunately, the shootings have occurred in multiple wards and quadrants in our city, southeast, southwest, and northwest, to be exact. Thanks to our friends from Fox 17, there's a map of the latest shootings, the last 9 that you can find, all taking place throughout the city. We also need a culture that embraces the role that each individual has, as well as the role of organizations, systems, and structures. Like I said, we all have a part to play in ensuring public safety. There's law enforcement, residents, elected officials, government, nonprofits, employers, education providers, mental health agencies, faith leaders, and the list goes on and on. Public safety refers to the welfare and protection of the general public, which I would describe as the whole body. Wisdom declares the human body has many parts, but the many parts make up one whole body. The eye can never say to the hand, I don't need you. The head can't say to the feet, I don't need you. In fact, some parts of the body that seem weakest and least important are actually the most necessary. If one part suffers, all the parts suffer with it. And if one part is honored, all the parts are glad. Well, there's suffering going on in our city, and it's affecting the safety and well-being of the entire city, whether it's felt or not. So I implore all who will hear this or read this to please do your part to help in changing the culture of our city today. To the residents who have information surrounding some of these recent shootings, please, please, please make a call to Silent Observer at 616-774-2345. And do it for your own children, your own brothers and sisters, your own parents. Do it out of the love that you have for those who are closest to you. And to the churches, faith leaders, nonprofit service providers, employers, education agencies, mental health providers, government agencies, job training agencies, and all others who see themselves as part of the community, you know who you are. Please, please, please lean in even more and do your part in changing the culture of our city and helping to ensure public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners, and thank you so much for your leadership. Next, I'd like to invite our interim police chief, David Kittle, to say a few words. Chief?
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to start with an overview